Good afternoon. My name is Doug Lean. I'm Manager for Economic Development for the City of Auburn, and welcome to another of our series of workshops. Today's program is going to be on computer networks and cloud computing. We hope this program will help walk you through, as a small business or a startup business or an existing business, to analyze what type of physical hardware network is necessary to operate your company efficiently and how to budget for the right type of hardware, and then so you don't overspend if you don't need it, or in how you can expand that network in the future to stay efficient. The second phase of the program is going to be presented by a gentleman who is very knowledgeable in cloud computing. I think everybody has heard about cloud computing, but maybe don't quite understand what it is. So hopefully he'll be able to walk you through that process and how possibly that may be for an option for future expansion or initially going into it that way, because that could eliminate a certain amount of hardware acquisition as you start up or expand your business. First, I would like to thank Mayor Nancy Backus and the City Council for extending the support to be able to do these ongoing programs, and our partners, the Auburn Downtown Association, the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce, to help promote these programs to the public and to their membership. This program also will be videotaped and available online that can be watched out of our video library under Economic Development. You can go back and watch it again in the future if you missed something. Or hopefully companies that weren't able to attend today can go back and take a look at it in the future at whatever time of the day they can get a way to watch it and be of a value to them. We're going to go out of order just a little bit on our first slide, our first presenter. Next slide. We're going to have Brian go first instead of Randy, and that way then we can go through the hardware end of it first and then into the cloud networking, which would be a second phase of it.
Thank you. I've been with the city since 2001, and before that, many other companies, but never started my own business, so that's not kind of where I lay. I've been building networks, installing them, troubleshooting them, pretty much since 1991, 92, when I just got sent out on first jobs back when the Novell and Microsoft was just beating down the doors. So I've kind of been around. Been in some small businesses where you just have a small network, small group of people in the office, and usually a couple people, a couple sales, maybe a programmer or two, mostly in the technical field. But those are the areas where I can talk to today. Back then, when you were building networks, you didn't have the threats you have today. Yes, you had viruses, but they were in the form of taking just kind of deleting your data or just making it hard to get to. Nowadays, you got malware, you got people trying to break in, take those things away from you. So it takes a lot more tools today to protect your investment, your business, than what it is when I first started. First layer of security, you're running your business either out of the home or out of an office space, your firewall. And there's many, you got your entry-level ones that can be $100, just your Comcast, looks like your home modem that you have you can get from Comcast. And then they can go all the way up to thousands of dollars. It just depends on layers of security that are kind of built into them. Besides those, you got your antivirus protection, and now you have your malware protection you need. Everyone hear the crypto locker that's been going around? Anyone hear of those? Where it password protects your the ransomware in a way where they get into your system, they take your files, and they want you to pay money to unlock it. And if you don't pay the money within a certain amount of time, your data is gone. So that was we at the city even got hit with that one in a couple places where, yeah, we had to grab those machines, format them up, and give them out new ones. But yeah, no matter how well protected, how big you are, how small you are, you need some basic tools to protect your network and protect your business. Other than that, Like I said, I don't know what businesses you have. If it's going to be an online business, it's great because you can take care of some online tools. You can, you don't have to have the infrastructure inside. You can run all your things probably from an iPad. You can serve up your website and your business on GoDaddy or any other online vendor. But if you're selling product out of your garage, and Amazon and the post office are going to probably be your next best friends and using their services, or FedEx. But other than that, yeah, I mean, for a small business, you don't need to install your own phone systems. Comcast, Quest, they all offer these services to you now. Everyone knows it's a digital world. Everything's running over the network. Everything's running over the internet in the cloud. I'm sure you guys have all heard of those. It's really moving down that road. Everything's going that way. Your file sharing, your file servers. Even here at the city, I mean, we're 60% virtualized. I mean, nothing's running on physical CPUs and processors much anymore. We're sharing the load and distributing it around. And so even for home business or even small business, you can do those things. I know Quest does it. They have you can buy one to many virtual servers, and you can run web servers, email servers, phone systems on these servers. You're not running cable everywhere. Other than that, another tool that's very important to have is backups for your data. Again, going back to viruses and malware, trying to destroy those things. You need some type of backup solution. It could be physical tape. It could be just a second hard drive that things are copied to. Again, and then there's cloud services out there where you can run nightly backups or even hourly backups to the cloud and just make sure you're protected from damage. You never know what to plan against. Your house or your business could catch fire or flood. Water damage is worse than fire sometimes. It all, like I said, it just depends on the business, but they're just some basic tools to protect yourselves. Besides those, it's just kind of researching that's out there. You don't need, 10, 15 servers to serve up file and print serving anymore. You can printers are working without print servers. You can buy a printer at the Home Depot and Best Buy these days, and they support wireless printing. And you can write from your iPad, your iPhone, your computer, you can print wireless to them. Same in the business. A lot of the stuff's getting cut out of the middle. So I would say kind of lucky if you're starting a business today, because the hardware is actually shrinking. Most things are going to the cloud. It's definitely a digital world, wireless world. It's just moving that direction. Even here at the city and other places and businesses I've talked to. Maybe I'd like to go back to see some of those companies, see how they're running, because yeah, I bet they're probably in the same boat we are. It's just a lot of transition to the cloud, a lot of, in some cases cheaper. You don't have to hire, 10 guys of me to support your network. And you can put it in the cloud, for a monthly fee, and they're doing all the protection for you. They're protecting against viruses and they're backing up your data. It's just a matter on the service contracts that and the services that you need. So I would say on that part, just do your research. If you need help, there's plenty of technical vendors out there, contractors out there that you can speak to. They'll be happy to help. A lot of them, you can just ask questions, talk to them, and just kind of work out a plan. They're just, and if they sell you something, great, they sell you something, but at least you can get knowledge sharing for free. You can talk to the vendors out there. You can talk to, like down the street, we have zones. They have a sales staff, they have technical staff behind them that can answer basic, general, pre-sales questions and kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. And then you can compare the products. Hit your reviews. One thing I'm very guilty of is going to Amazon. I can pick up all the reviews, and read them all day long and see what's out there. Is firewall better than that firewall? What's you can see the features or the pros and the cons. Is it going to work in my business or my environment, or is it not? And move on to the next one. So there's so much out there today than there was never out there when I started. I would say those are kind of the basic areas that I would key in on. You don't need to spend a lot of money anymore. I think most people can get by with running their business on a phone and a computer these days, unless they're having a lot of staff. But I'm kind of thinking to myself, a small business starting out would just be a couple people. But yeah, you don't need much. You don't need a huge data closet. You don't need to go down that road. You can see the internet and the digital services that are offered today by most companies. They're pretty good. Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Do you have any questions for Brian right at the moment that you may have? Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll do some question and answer at the end also, if you think of something. At this time, I'd like to introduce Randy Vandenberg with CenturyLink, who is going to talk about cloud computing. Randy?
Okay, well, thanks everybody for being here today. I know you guys all have busy schedules, and I appreciate your time. My name is Randy Vandenberg. I'm a senior solutions engineer for CenturyLink. My role is basically to help design out and price everything for different types of solutions, whether it be private cloud, public cloud, colo space. CenturyLink has a wide variety of products that we sell, from the network, telephone lines, connecting everything up to colo space. We are well, anyway, get back to me a little bit more here. I got 30 years experience working in IT, mainly for small companies from 10 to 25 employees. Had a couple of big companies, worked for Boeing and Weyerhaeuser, doing some certain projects for them, but my vast experience comes from working with the small businesses. And so I got asked to come here to talk a little bit about our cloud, and what I'm going to do, some of these slides I'm going to go through pretty fast because I don't think they might really pertain to the small business, so I'm going to try to make this go a little bit more towards something that you guys understand. I know that they want to hold questions at the end, but if you need to ask a question, feel free. I want to have this somewhat interactive, but next slide. So there was a recent survey out there from 1,700 CEOs around the country that stated that, technology is really defining their success. I mean, it's getting more and more that technology is driving business, and the cost of technology, unfortunately, is kind of hindering that due to the fact that when you purchase physical equipment, that equipment gets old, it gets obsolete, now you have to refresh it. And not only does that take expense, capital expense to do that, it also takes expertise in being able to move applications over from old legacy systems onto newer systems. Next slide, please. Oh, there it goes, 71%. So I forgot some of these are interactive. So again, I mean, technology is really driving how organizations are doing business, whether it be a small business or a major enterprise. You know, it's even changing more than, you know, what's driving the economy, because, I mean, small businesses, even though they're affected by the economy, they still want to drive their business, they still want to grow, they're still trying to be successful, and technology helps them do that. Next slide, please. Okay, that's it right there. So really, the four basic needs of a business is really to increase the ability to generate profitable revenues and to decrease the cost of operations. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, as well as, you know, enhance and strengthen the image and, you know, lessen risk and vulnerabilities. And that's where cloud computing really plays a big part, because now you're not investing in the physical infrastructure. That's more of a shared cost. So when you get a, you know, a cloud server up, or servers in a lot of, you know, the organizations that are out there that provide cloud, this is all shared infrastructure. Everybody shares in the cost, okay, so that it helps keep things, you know, affordable. Next slide, please. And CenturyLink understands all you guys' needs, small business, large business, and we have a variety of tools that can help you with migrating into the cloud, as well as data analytic services. So if you have multiple databases that need to talk with each other, we do big data to where now we can you know, analyze that so that you can see how trends are happening. I know police departments do that, where they have all sorts of different areas that they like to monitor to see where the trends are going in the way of crime rates and things like this. And so that helps out with that. Modernize your legacy systems. And, again, as time goes by, hardware gets old, applications get old, but the data is still vital to your business, so we help, you know, streamline the updating process of it, as well as we offer IT consulting. So if you need somebody to come in and do a risk assessment, a security assessment of your network, we can have someone come out and give you some advice there on things that you might, you know, want to improve upon. Next slide, please. So CenturyLink has been on a huge, how do you want to say this, acquisition. Well, we're trying to, CenturyLink is trying to get away from being your telephone company and to being a complete IT service shop, provide everything. So CenturyLink bought Savis, which is a third largest data center company in the world. We bought AppFog, which is down in Portland, Oregon. It's a platform as a service, mainly for developers. Tier 3, which is out of Bellevue, which is our private cloud platform. Data Gardens, it's out of Ontario, Canada, and their product is Safe Haven, which is a disaster recovery as a service. So it gives real-time disaster recovery. So if your site goes down, your production site goes down, you can initiate a failover into the cloud, and now as far as your business is concerned, it's still up and running. You still have access to all your data with very minimal loss. And then Orchestrate, which is a new company that we purchased out of Portland, Oregon again, and this is a database as a service. New spin on that. Next slide, please. So basically, we do what we like to call a hybrid solution. So we can put private, public cloud together, co-location, your on-prem network, as well as managed services. We can come in and help manage physical hardware, operating system on down, or even some of your applications, depending upon, you know, what your needs are. I don't like to say outsourcing, but I like to say we can augment your staff. Let your IT staff focus on your business needs and not the network needs. Next slide, please. So again, this is kind of a seamless integration, kind of a quick shows of what the private cloud is basically dedicated hardware that's in a colo, or the public cloud, and all the little squares there with the letters and numbers, those are all the data centers that our cloud pod, for our public cloud pod is in. And those are connected together. So now that's what makes it a hybrid solution. Explain more what the data centers are. So CA is for Canada. DE is Germany, Great Britain. So it's all over the world. And I got another slide up here coming up that will show that. Next slide, please. And so what our cloud platform offers is visibility, control, automation, security, and governance. The pictures there kind of show what the portal looks like when you're inside of this thing. You know up front what everything's going to cost you before you hit the install or start button to like spin up a server or build anything out. And again, we will help you. We have a white glove onboarding, so we will help you come in and set up a bunch of servers to begin with, so that you kind of get the feel of how everything works. Next slide, please. So what is CenturyLink Cloud? So it's basically infrastructure as a service, which is scalable, means you can build it up. It's elastic, means you can spin it down. It's pay as you go. If you don't need it, shut it off. There's no charge. So as long as you're consuming resources, you're charged. And even shutting the server off. If you don't need a server for the weekend, you can actually automate a task, shut the server off Friday night at 5 o'clock, start it back up Monday morning, 8 o'clock, all automated, and then now over the weekend you're not charged for the CPU and RAM that's running, you're only charged for the actual storage, because you always will have storage if you have it in there. Next. And then platform as a service is built on Cloud Foundry and Iron Foundry. These are two great development tools that are out there. Next slide. And then advanced management. You have server administration, there's monitoring scheduling, auto scale, APIs, 24/7 global support, and this is local US support. You're not going offshore for support. As well as managed services. Again, this is where we would come in and help you manage your environment. All the way from whether you just want us to patch the servers, you know, 1 or 2 servers is not that hard to manage, but when you start getting into 10 or 15 or 20, or I don't know how many that you guys might have, but unfortunately with Windows, you have to patch them, and so that takes downtime and man hours to do. Next slide, please. So workloads, we have all sorts of different types of workloads that are out there, from mission critical, your business apps, migrations. We can use like I said, the disaster recovery as a service is a way to utilize migrating your current virtual environment into a cloud environment. Hosting, you got a website, got an e-commerce site. It's great for that. Testing and dev work, it's perfect for that, because you can spin servers up as you need them. Your developers do their work. Once they get their work done, you take the work off of there, you shut the servers down, and then you're not charged anymore. Works great for testing out new software as well. You have a 90-day trial of something. You spin up a server for 90 days, check it out, see how well it works, and this way here, you're not having to put that into your production environment, because you don't know how well it's going to work in your environment. And then web scale architectures. the Hadoop and cloud-based, Cassandra and NoSQL. These are all back-end web applications that works really good with different types of front-end type websites, as well as your business apps. Next slide, please. So Gartner recognizes CenturyLink as being right up there in the top quadrant of well-engineered, easy to use. And then we are also on a 21-day sprint. So every 21 days, we're pushing out new releases and bug fixes, whatever. We also have a button on our portal that if you come up with an ideal that, you know, is just like, I'd like to see this in here. You can submit an ideal. If it gets approved, then it gets put into that rotation. And we don't do one-offs. We're not going to do one for this lady and then you can't use it. It's global. So once we push out a release, a new fix, an enhancement, the whole community gets it. And that was actually an ideal from somebody that said, we need a button here to, you know, if we want improvements, how the customers, you know, the people that use it can make recommendations on making it better. Next slide, please. Okay, again, 21-day agile cycle release, 20-minute deployment. Usually it's about how long it takes to fire up a server. So you log in, give them your credit card number. 20 minutes later, you can have a server up and running. We have the ability to do white labeling. So if you want to label it to your business, you can. Object storage, auto scaling, both with horizontal and vertical. So if you have a website that at times have peak traffic, you can scale it to where if it needs more CPU, more RAM, you can scale it up once it hits a certain threshold. And then once it passes that and it drops off, then after a certain length of time, it'll take those resources away. And then again, your billing goes up and down. It's consumption based. As well as horizontally. You need more servers, right? It will fire up additional servers to support that workload. You don't need them, it shuts them off. Different types of webhooks, APIs. These are just calls that helps with automation. And you can write your own, you can import your own, or use the ones that are out there. It's a self-service network. You do it all. Basically, we give you the keys, and you set up your own networking, firewall rules, all that stuff. Again, we will do some, we have different levels of white glove onboarding, so we will teach you how to do it so that you're just not left out in the blind. As well as VPN. We have two different types of VPNs to where if you just have an individual desktop, it's open VPN, no cost, as well as if you need a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week permanent connection between a on-prem network and the cloud, we can set that up as well. And that's all included. SAML, that's single sign-on. So basically one username, one password gets you through the whole system. Global search, so because we have 13, 15 data centers that are around the world, if you end up someday growing to the point where you have hundreds of servers spread out across multiple data centers, all you got to do is just remember what the name of the server is, type it in there, and it'll go find it for you. You don't have to go look through the different data centers to know where they're at. Hyperscale, again, that's the hard drives, faster IOPS, which is your read-write on hard drives. Managed services, again, we will come in for an additional cost to manage your cloud environment. And then the UI is version 2, which is it's really a slick user interface. Next slide, please. This is our global footprint. As you can see, right now the dark colored circles are where our pods are at right now for public. And we're coming up with different private pods across the country. And this is, again, a private pod is going to be where you have dedicated hardware. Okay, we still manage it, we still control it, we still do everything. It's just we're, letting you use it and, build your servers out on it, whether it be VMware or you just want a Windows server, we can give you just a Windows server out there. And then we have additional sites that we're going to be coming up with as well. So really between our public cloud nodes and our data centers, we have about 68, almost 70 data centers around the world. Probably 2.5 million square feet of raised floor. And how we bill out our data center space or our colo space is we charge by power. So depending upon how many kilowatts you need, and that includes all the power, the space, the rack, as well as air conditioning, your cross connect. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that talks about a survey from Cloud Harmony where they are rating our Hyperscale CPU speed and IOPS. So the one on the left side is our CPU performance, and the one on the right is IOPS, which is the disk read-write performance. So it's very important that, especially if you're running very high transactional databases, that you have solid IOPS, and ours are somewhere around the 20,000 IOPS, which is pretty good for what other companies have to offer. Next slide. So competitive pricing, again, this is consumption based. So you get CPU and RAM. As long as you're not running anything, you're not charged for that. We have the lowest cost for outbound bandwidth, and you're only charged for outbound bandwidth. Everything that comes inbound is at no cost to you. It's all built in, it's not bolt-on. So this is not something that is kind of superficial. I mean, it's built in as a complete system. Custom support options, again, dependent upon what your needs are. We have different levels of managed support, all the way up to, managing some of your applications. We have very tight 4.9 SLAs. Again, custom branding, which is the white labeling, your VLAN, your orchestration, billing. All of this stuff is seen from within inside of your portal, and it's very what's the word I want to use there? Transparent. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything on it. So, next slide, please. So our highlights, again, 4.9 SLA, enterprise gear. So everything is on VMware. All your servers, all the cloud servers would be built on that. Secure private VLAN and VPN. We're both SSAE 16 and HIPAA compliant. Doesn't necessarily mean it would make you HIPAA compliant, but as far as the hardware and the infrastructure that is being built on is HIPAA compliant. You have to make sure that what you're putting in that environment is HIPAA compliant. So it has built-in business continuity and disaster recovery. So we basically take rolling snapshots. We have two different types of storage. One would give you 5 days of rolling snapshot, and the second is our premium, which gives you 14 days of rolling snapshots, and then it also takes a copy of that snapshot and moves it to additional sister data center that's 800 miles or more away, just to make sure that there's a copy of that available in case, disaster. I mean, and you got to look at disaster as not just Mother Nature anymore. I mean, disasters can be a server going down, taking down your business critical applications, a disgruntled employee. There's so many things. Billy Bob out with his backhoe rips up your fiber going into your building. I mean, these all can create some type of disaster for a company. IDS, which is intrusion detection, very important, so that it has built-in firewall for you, so that if you can monitor what's going on. You got the ability to set rules, open ports, close ports. And then the advanced IT management, your control portal, again, APIs, which are the calls. You can write your own APIs if you have that ability to do that. It's all self-service. It's all automated. It's orchestrated to where if you want to build out like environments, the best way I can think about it is if you have a service to where, or you're a development shop and you have a need to build multiple environments the same to do development, testing, and all that kind of work in there. And what this does is it allows you to build what's called a blueprint. And then now you can keep spinning up that same environment over and over and over again, and especially if it's a multi-server environment. It might take you several hours to do. If you're doing it on a physical machine, this here would spin it up in a matter. Once you get it built, it would spin it up in 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, depending upon the size of it and what's running on top of it. Again, it's very flexible options. Data sovereignty, everything is encrypted both at rest and in transit. Hourly billing, so if, again, if it's not on, you're not billed. Pay as you go, that's consumption-based. Managed OSs, again, we will manage those operating systems for you. We'll do the patching, we'll do everything that's required so that all you have to do is worry about what applications are running on top of them. Onboarding, white glove onboarding. We have 3 different types of onboarding to where we'll spend, I think, a couple hours with you all the way up to almost a day with you, depending upon what your needs are. I think it's, we build 1 or 12, something like that. So really, again, we'll go through, help you build servers, help you set up your networking, help you set up your firewalls. If you need a VLAN set up, we'll help you go set all that up, as well as VPNs. Set up across multiple data centers, all that good stuff. And then we have different support tiers, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Next slide, please. So basically, cloud is flexible. It's very scalable. It has good security, performance, just because you can, on the fly increase the resources of your server. If you need more RAM, you just go in there and bump it up a couple more gigs. If you need another processor, you just go in there, change it from 2 to 3. And okay, next slide. Next slide. This is just a shot of a data center. So this is kind of a shot of what it looks like to build out one of the servers. And here you get very high performance VMs just because it's run on enterprise grade physical hardwares, as well as in EXXi. So that's VMware. Again, self-service elastic. You can slide up more CPUs or down. You can go all the way up to 16 virtual CPUs and 128 gigs of RAM. Both Windows and Linux. There's several flavors of Linux out there that don't require any licensing. So it's a good way to help keep your costs down. You can deploy in multiple data centers. You don't have to be just stuck in one data center. You can move things, and you can do your own disaster recovery across multiple data centers. Again, auto scale and manage services. And there's a list of the Linux brands, Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat, and Debian. And I think the only one up there that requires a license is Red Hat. I think all the other ones are at no cost. Next slide, please. So block storage, this is on your actual servers themselves. You get 2,500 plus IOPS. You can resize the disk on the fly. You can always increase storage, but you cannot decrease storage. So you have to make sure that you understand that, because it won't allow you to take away the storage. So you have to be very careful when you decide to increase. It's basically, it's all point and click object storage. Again, this is something that's very scalable and fault tolerance. Our object storage is basically, you dump it out there and it will grow as you increase the data that's on it. I think it comes at about 15 cents a gig, so it's very affordable. And it's also S3 compatible. There's a application out there by Cloudberry that's called Easy Drive, and it basically allows you to map a drive to your storage to where it just looks like a shared off your Windows Explorer. Next slide. So Hyperscale instances, this is again for web architectures. We use 100% flash. It's at 15,000 IOPS. And the different types of software that runs out in there, and we offer licensing for all of this. But there is no automated backups. You have to supply your own backup solution for that. Next slide, please. So your backup, disaster recovery, and business continuity, as I mentioned earlier, for standard storage, you get 5 days of rolling backups. What I do is basically, if you're familiar with VMware, just think of a snapshot. It takes one snapshot of that VM a day, and on the 6th day, the first one goes away and takes that place. The premium is 14 days of rolling backups, and then it will store a copy of that at a secondary data center, and it usually takes anywhere between 8 to 24 hours to recover a snapshot, depending upon, I guess, how loud you guys are screaming. I think it usually goes to, who's ever screaming the loudest gets heard first, right? Next slide. So self-server network bandwidth, again, you're only charged for the gigabytes going outbound. CDN upon request. Direct connect between corporate networks and CenturyLink cloud data centers. It also supports MPLS. We have, again, built-in firewalls, so we can help you set up your policies. Open ports, closed ports. We also have load balancing built into this, to where it could either be the shared load balancer or a dedicated load balancer. And then the VPN, OpenVPN is up to 1 gigabyte of speed, and then an IPsec point-to-point could be up to 10 gigs, depending upon what your bandwidth needs are at your location. Next slide, please. Next slide. We already went over this one. So again, this is kind of what your portal looks like. When you log into it, it basically gives you your cost right up front. And if you go from left to right, a monthly estimate, that is estimated cost. Currently, it's costing you $5 an hour. And right now, if you were to shut everything off, your bill would be $1,256.82. And this is basically for 30 servers using 56 CPUs, 232 gigabytes of RAM, and what is that, 3 terabytes of data? Yeah. So it's very cost effective. I mean, it lets you know right off the bat that, I mean, you think about that, $5 an hour. I mean, that's not very much. Next slide, please. Wow, I guess I'm done. So any questions? I know I went through that pretty fast, but I'm going to be around for a while, so if you guys got questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Randy. That was very interesting, very informative. A couple of questions from a small business perspective. On a cloud network, let's say it's a small business that's going to install QuickBooks and use that as an interaction application for their accounting, point of sale, and inventory. Is that an application that you indicated, that, you know, when you say multiple applications, is that something that you would actually have that as an application available that you would host on the server, or would that be hosted on their in-house machine and you would be backing it up into the cloud?
It could be done either way. We could put it out into the cloud and on a server there and then back it up to an additional server in a different data center, or they can have it on-prem and back it up into the cloud.
Okay. So that is, it could be an either or, whichever is the most cost-effective way to do it.
Correct.
Okay. And if a company has an existing set of computers, standalone, maybe a small server that they're using right now, but instead of going in and spending a lot of money to expand that hardware, you could then become an add-on to what they existing have, and theirs would be basically the portal into the cloud?
Correct. We could set up a point-to-point VPN if they had a firewall or a router switch that had VPN capabilities. We could create that 24/7 tunnel and then migrate back and forth between the two. We can actually extend their current network out into the cloud.
So if Brian has a basic standalone hardwired small network and knows he's got to expand because of a new client coming on board and a lot more capacity, one of your consultants will work with the client to integrate it in with what they already have.
Correct, and that's usually, a lot of that goes with our white glove onboarding to help them get set up initially with, building that server, getting that VPN set up. We usually have a call prior to the onboarding to set expectations so that we know what you're expecting from us during this onboarding process, because this is your time. So, we're looking for you to tell us what you need. I mean, you already have access to the portal. You can see what you can figure out. And usually we can do a demo to help you out a lot, as well as a 30-day trial we can do to allow you to get in and play around with a little bit at no cost.
A lot of businesses will run on just standalone CPUs initially. A lot of them running on laptops. You see them in their stores or their businesses. If my memory and my limited capability with computer networking, I believe through Windows 7, for example, you can network 3 CPUs together. It's just directly through Windows 7 has that capability, and one of them would be considered the standalone, or would be the master server off that workstation, at least what I've been told. To make a decision to put in a network server in-house and router it all together versus going to the cloud. You showed a pricing example up there that had 6 servers and all kinds of stuff. If you were a small business that's working off of one laptop, let's say, at their front counter, and they decide to go with the cloud and you have a virtual server and then begin to build that small online network, do you know what the approximate monthly cost would be at that example? Very basic.
If you're looking at like a 1 CPU server, 2 gigs of RAM, Windows operating system, a minimal amount of storage, so you're going to need 60 gigabytes for your system drive, and that's standard for setting up one of those servers. An additional storage of 40 to 60 gigs, 100 gigs, depending on what you're
Right.
running on there. 120, $100 a month.
Okay. I didn't want people to walk away with $1,200 a month in their head.
No, that was for 30 servers. And that
that's-
was a pretty large environment. And again, I said, this really,
So when a small business is doing their budget for their business plan, and they look at how they're going to budget out, are they going to sit down with a consultant, say like Brian, and work through what they'd have to go out and buy for hardware to set up their own system, and they're going to finance it, it's going to cost them so much a month versus going the other direction, or how do you do a blend of both, Brian?
Gosh, I mean, yeah, I mean, small business server, you can set those things up in-house, but you're looking, I mean, just in hardware, $5,000 to $10,000. Software can go skyrocket with your Microsoft licenses, your Exchange, your client access licenses. You go to the cloud at a little, you can go with Microsoft's Office 365 implementation, where you can, have your email in the cloud, your Word and Excel, PowerPoint, or even Google Apps. Both are competing for that market. But you can, like I said, you don't have to spin up servers, all the way. I mean, today, at your home, you can just try out. I mean, Gmail. I'm sure a lot of you have in your setup. I mean, that's cloud email. But for small business, you can have a business account through either of these vendors, and you can share documents. You can send emails back and forth, all from your mobile device or your computer in the house or your business. That's a smaller implementation of cloud services, but that's kind of where you're going.
Okay.
And then, when you get to, let's say your business is taking off, you got employees going on, and you need that next level, you start rolling out services. Yeah, cloud, and bringing up these servers and spinning up the CPU cycles and adding RAM. And that's kind of where those are kind of detailed, but kind of depends on how large or small that business is and what they're doing.
Okay. Well, and that's the point that we wanted to do with this program is to give those options out there of what would you have to spend from a hardware perspective. Let's say you're a startup, and as Brian just said, that let's say you budgeted $5,000 for your basic CPUs, workstations, switches, or whatever, and then the cloud takes over at that point, and you're only basically paying for services as rendered and as you need. So it could be a very cost-effective way on your budgeting. And how you figure and include that in your business plan. Again, I'd like to thank Mayor Nancy Backus and this Auburn City Council for its ongoing financial support of this programming. Our member partners, the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce, the Auburn Downtown Association, and of course our speakers, and they will be around shortly after for any direct one-on-one questions that you might have. Thank you very much.